We've had several technology sessions over the last couple of days, talking about, TD talked about using technology for cash transactions. We had an investor bank with somebody presenting the cyber risks of credit card transactions. Yesterday, we had a good session about how we in government have not been able to keep up to the private sector because of their use of technology and reasons why we can't. And I'm sure I'm missing a couple, but technology is it helps us run. I mean, we can't run without it. We can't improve without it. So it's very important to us. So this session is going to talk about securing your data and how important that is, as well as resiliency type, working from home, remote type things. A little bit, give me 30 seconds more. In Cumberland County, first of all, Cindy and Stan are both Cumberland County employees. They're my peers. Stan is the Chief Information Security Officer for the county, and Cindy is our training and professional development person for our Human Resources Department. She's in charge of our training. So they're going to be our presenters. We had this is very important to us. It should be important to everybody. We actually had a breach. Fortunately, it caused no damage. We didn't have the ransom stuff, but it got into our criminal software or databases, which the state police were very offended by that. We then spent about $40,000-$50,000 verifying that there were no damages, and they didn't get off with any information. We then spent $350,000 to improve our firewalls and our network. Another 50, 60,000. Yeah. Did I say 350? We spent it $650 improving our firewalls, our network, and $350 in consulting. So we had absolutely nothing taken, nothing compromised, corrupted, and we spent over $1 million. As a result, technology was under me. I dropped it like a red hot. So we went out and recruited. We wanted to recruit someone to take over, make technology a department rather than a division of finance, elevate the importance of technology, and try to make sure that things like that never happened again. We were very, very fortunate to attract Stan Field, our speaker today, who at that time was a captain with the state police, responsible for cybercrime investigations, and he'll tell you a lot about it, but he's got a long career in investigating and prosecuting cybercrime. So who better to help us make sure that these things never happen again. So I am very, very happy to have Stan as an employee, believe me, and equally as happy to have Stan present to the GFOA this morning. So all yours.
Thanks, Jerry. Really appreciate the intro. Helping me out today is Dr. Cindy Hickman. Cindy is the director for our training and wellness. We've worked hand in hand on numerous trainings throughout the county. Thanks, Cindy, for helping me out today here. It's interesting how we have these presentations now. Normally, I would be in front of a podium or wherever we were, and there would be some 100 and here again, technology 160. So I'm no stranger to doing talks live. I'm no stranger to doing talks to people. I actually like people, and I like doing that because I like the interaction back and forth. But the time that we're in now, hence technology, is very, very different. It's unique, I would say, because as I'm talking to 160 of you, I'm looking around my office, and there's nobody here. So if somebody were to go by, if the lawn maintenance was to go by, they'd look at me walking around talking, and they're like, what's this guy? Is he crazy or something? So Cindy, that's a wellness issue we'll probably have to take a look at. A little bit about myself. Jerry hit the nail on the head. I did 25 years with the state police. I retired last September. I came on board here the end of October last year. Very proactive county, very proactive county here in Cumberland. My background with the state police, I did, I went to school at Rutgers. I graduated from Rutgers. I was the first class in the state police, the 114th class, to actually require you had to have a 4-year degree in order to get into to the state police then. That was back in '94. Believe it or not, I wasn't going to be a police officer. What I was going to be was a teacher. That's what I was going to college for. And then I changed. I was going to be an actuary. And then I changed. I took the test for state police. I did pretty well. And here I am today as a result of all that. So everything happens for a reason. In the state police, you start out as a road trooper, uniform patrol. There's about 3,000 employees in the state police, 3,000 troopers in the state police. Out of those 3,000, there's only about 1,000 of them that are on the road that do patrol. So I always used to get the question of, hey, if you pull me over, what about this? And at one point in my career, I was lucky enough to get off the road with 3.5 years on, and I went into our high-tech crimes unit. And I spent a good part of 18 years doing computer crimes, and I was actually Mike Garrity, who is the CISO for the NJ Cyber Cell, the KIC. Mike was my mentor, and Mike was the first person that was in the unit, brought me over literally a month after the unit had started. So I was very fortunate to work for him. Very wealth of information. I was able to, at that point, also go back for my master's degree. I got that from Seton Hall, and that was in administration and education. And I attended numerous classes. I mean, I don't want to get too much into a lot of my background, but I've seen a lot of things. I've been through a lot of things. Very fortunate to be where I am right now in Cumberland County. So this presentation here today is about securing your data. What is cybersecurity? Some of the security concerns and safeguards. So Cumberland County went out and sought after a CISO. The CISO is a different type of position. We'll get into that in a couple of slides. But what we're going to talk about today is what is cybersecurity, common security concerns and safeguards. And what I like to do too is I like to add little life stories to it. So I may give you some stories from firsthand knowledge. I was never afraid to get my hands dirty, and over my 25-year career, I've seen a lot of things. I've done a lot of things. Partnered with a lot of people. Partnered with the one of the co-creators of the Commodore 64. Great guy. Still talk to him today. I'm still waiting to get him to sign my Commodore 64. And most people, if I bring up a Commodore 64 today, most people don't know what that is, but I still have mine in the box and everything else attached with it. So these are the things we're going to talk about today. And so cybersecurity, we've got a lot of things going on this slide here. So cybersecurity is defined as computer security, cybersecurity, or information technology security, the protection of computer systems and networks from the theft or damage to their hardware, software, or electronic data, as well as from the disruption of misdirection of the services they provide. Now that's the Webster's dictionary. If you Google that stuff, GTS, if you look that up, that's what it's going to come back at. But cybersecurity, in essence, if you look at this slide, it's got a lot going on. Keeping your data safe, keeping your infrastructure safe. And there's a lot of ways to go about and doing that. And that's just the definition that I just read for you. No, I didn't memorize it. It's actually on the other side of the slide for anybody that's interested in knowing. Technology again, folks. So CISO, the Chief Information Security Officer, evolved from the Chief Information Officer. The CISO, and what's unique and very glad to be presenting to the GFOA. What's unique about the CISO is they say the CISO should have a very big role with the CFO. And there's a bunch of reasons for that, I think, and from being here, it just worked out that way. So Jerry and I have a really good relationship that we discuss many things, and Jerry does have a pretty good technical background, and that helps exponentially. But Jerry also controls the funding. Jerry understands what we need in terms of technology because he knows the technology. So when you read that, it says the CISO also is in communication, and there's a direct affiliation with the CFO. That's very true. And then you're seeing a lot more of these positions on the rise. So CISOs, you look at it and it says on the top, it says this is what they look for. IT technical expertise, biggest, 42%, right? Business knowledge, analytics, we go through that, right? Some of the things that jump out, and these are where I would ask like an overhead question to somebody, and I won't do that, but this is where I would say, what stands out to you as the audience as something that you could identify with? And I think one of the things that I see as the people leadership, creativity, and innovation, and knowing how to prioritize. If you look, that's a low percentage. However, what we've done here is and the creativity, it's what's interesting, it says 21% is the third most important. So what we've done here is we've relied on IT expertise because I have a great staff, super smart, super intelligent. I know they can get the job done. And we rely on also cybersecurity and technical expertise, which is where I come into play, and we also have somebody that has their master's in cybersecurity here as well. But people leadership is big because you have to know the climate of your staff. It's difficult to find someone who has a perfect balance, right? And I use this for my Star Wars fans. There has to be perfect harmony in the Force. There has to be a balance in the Force. It's not harmony, it's balance. If you watch what Lucas says, he says it's a balance, right? Sorry, I don't want to offend any of my Star Trek fans out there as well, but Star Wars is the only Star that I know. Anyway, so this is where I would look around and see who's laughing, who's smiling. Some of these jokes. Like, all right, so sidebar. So we're going to do this every once in a while. I coined the phrase when we started our department head meetings as this looking like the Brady Bunch. All right, when you look at your screen, you see all the people up there. I coined the phrase it looked like the Brady Bunch, and I should have put something out there on that, because now everybody's saying, look, it's the Brady Bunch, it's the Brady Bunch. All right. And Alice is in the middle. I think Alice was in the middle. I think she was at one point in the season. I don't know. Now I'm dating myself. But I think going back to this, people leadership is something that's very, very important in the creativity as well. So what I did was, in getting on board here, and this is very, very integral when you bring on someone who is going to run your IT, when you bring on someone who is going to make sure that you're safe and secure. So when you go to sleep at night, you don't have to worry about getting that phone call that, oh my God, we got broken into. We have a ransomware hit us, and what do we do? What do we do? So the roadmap that I created was for the first 100 days. All right. So I gave myself a 100-day plan, and what that constituted was what you see on the screen here. Not necessarily as the days, but just something to give a barometer of how I could assess myself. Prepare. I prepare well in advance of what I needed to know and what the county was. And luckily, walking in, the county really here had some, like Jerry had said, he had some great stuff in play. So when I got here, my first thing was to assess the information, see what we have, right? So see what the current state of the security program is. I had a checklist. I had a bunch of stuff that I went over, and looking at that to see what we have, then is what I decide to plan what needs to be done. What's my blueprint? Okay. And then after I do that, I have to act on this. And then how do I measure my success? I'm a big fan of, after something, doing a hot wash. So give you an example. When COVID hit, okay, I like to call it, we have to drop back, we call an audible at the line. All right. So when COVID hit, everything went cattywampus. It went sideways, right? So what do? All right, well, we got people that want to work home. They want to do this and that. So we take a step back. We look at the totality of everything, and we formulate a plan. All right, that's what we do, and we did that very successfully, not just in Cumberland, but around the entire nation. If you ask me, is working from home and remotely. So again, we have to measure our success. So what we did after that was, well, what do we do right? What do we do wrong? And over here, I have my whiteboard that you can't see, but I put all my stuff on it so that, because I forget. It's like the, I don't know if anybody ever watched Married with Children. Kelly Bundy, there was one episode where Kelly Bundy could only learn so much. And every time she learned one thing, she forgot the first thing that she learned. So she would learn something and forget something, learn something and forget something. So I call that the Kelly Bundy theory. So I put it up on the board, so there's no way that I'm going to forget it. So if I look there, it's right there. I'm like, oh, that's right, I forgot about that. I have to do that. Even though we have cell phones that we can use, right? We have cell phones, we have multiple devices, but the best thing sometimes, where are they? Bring them out. How many people do this? Is right here. The Post-it note in the pocket. So we go low tech, and I'm going to give you an example of low tech in a couple of slides. So measure and assess what your goals are. The other thing that's important is to sit down with your employees and see what their needs are. So if I were to come in here and just say, this is what it's going to be, it's the highway, that's it. It's my way or the highway. Nah, it's not going to work. You have to get people to want to do that, and you have to get them to I don't want to say buy into your plan, but have to show that there is some method to the madness, and doing it this way will work. So you have to assess what their needs are as well too, and that's very important as well. So when I talked about the state police with high-tech crimes, I was actually with Mike Garrity. Mike recruited me, and again, I can't say enough good about Mike, and I still am in touch with Mike and work with him to this day. But our first computer crimes unit, I have a little video here that I'm going to play, but I have to take my headphones off. I'm going to play just a little bit of it. I have to go old school, and I have to put it up to the speaker like I used to do years ago when we did our internet safety presentations. But I'll tell you why I'm showing you this video after I actually show the video. So just give me 1 sec.
Peeping Toms. More on all of this now from Action News New Jersey correspondent Kathy Gandolfo.
This is the High Technology Crimes Unit of the New Jersey State Police. Here, officers examine hard drives and software in an effort to crack computer crime. It's the same unit that solved and made the arrest in the Melissa virus case, and that's not all.
Harassing emails. We deal a lot with the network intrusions, where basically simple hackers that are stealing credit cards, a lot of internet fraud.
Since its inception 2 years ago, the 11-person unit has seen its work increase 500%. Right now, their work includes the case of Jason Kammerer of Washington Township. Kammerer was arrested in Deptford last week after allegedly videotaping the private areas of young children as they played inside the Chuck E. Cheese restaurant. Police say he admitted having taped children in the past for his own use and self-gratification. During a search of Kammerer's house, police removed a computer, discs, and tapes and turned them over to this state police unit.
We did an initial examination or a cursory check to substantiate what they believed was true, and we found, in fact, child pornographic images that would substantiate the admissible charges.
Police say pictures of little girls without clothing were found on a computer disk, and child pornography had been downloaded from the internet. Now they are still looking at videotapes and examining the computer's hard drive.
We could tell by the type of file it is, whether it was downloaded. We could tell where the file was, when it was deleted, when it was accessed last. There's a lot of things like that we'll be able to find out.
As a result of the initial findings by the state police, Kammerer's disorderly persons offense was joined by charges of endangering child welfare and possession of child pornography. He is currently out on $10,000 bail, and the case will be presented to a grand jury. Meanwhile, the cyber cops continue to investigate this and many other alleged crimes involving computers. In West Trenton,
All right. Kathy Gandolfo was a huge supporter for pro law enforcement advertisements and news clips back then. And so the reason why I show that is if you look at that, and yes, that was wood paneling on the walls, and I don't think they've changed that since I left anyway. But if you look at that and you see that was the setup we were working at, where we were doing computer forensics on stuff that was just it was really pioneering that to say it the most. And I muted myself and I just unmuted myself. So we started out as a small unit, and they said there was 11 people, but we only started out with about 2 or 3 people. So it grew exponentially to a unit, and then the need for that actually rose out into a bureau, where that bureau now has 5 units in it, which is electronic surveillance, which does all the wiretaps and sweeps the governor's mansions for the bugs and et cetera, et cetera. There is a high-tech crimes unit, which is the cyber crimes unit, and there is a digital technology unit. They do all of the child crimes. The cyber crimes does all the network intrusions. There is also a regional computer forensic lab that the state police works in conjunction with the FBI. Ours was the second lab in the country. The first one was out in California, and this is back in 2000. Now, law enforcement brings all of their media, their hard drives to the RCFL to analyze them, just as cell phones and things like that. So, so I started out doing that with DOS on a disk operating system level, and I've seen computers evolve over the years, which brings us into the next topic, which is cybersecurity concerns. So our cybersecurity concerns, we look at this as a, and the one thing in that video, if you listen, we started getting press because of the Melissa virus, and I'll go into what that was later on at the end. We started getting press because of the Melissa virus that happened in '99. But looking at this, our types of attackers, we have phishing, we have spear attacks, we have cross-site scripting, denial of service attacks. A denial of service attack was really big back in the 90s, and that's how I got a lot of my confidential informants, was through denial of service attacks, and that's how I actually met the founder of the Commodore 64, because he owned an internet service provider, and he was a victim of an attack, and we kind of worked with each other. It was really cool. There's a couple of good books out there. One by Cliff Stoll, The Cuckoo's Egg, if anybody ever gets a chance to read it, if you like reading about hacker-driven stories, things like that. Kevin Mitnick, there's things like that are out there that you could read, and actually, it's actually pretty interesting. So at the time, I was a young trooper, and getting into it, it was really cool sitting down and brainstorming with a guy who was super smart. I brought him here to the office and introduced him to a couple of guys here, and they were like, "Man, that guy's just on a different level," and he is. And I liked it because he was way smarter than me. And in my opinion, I said, "Man, what can I learn from this guy? What can he teach me? And how can I make myself better?" And I still talk to him this day. Matter of fact, the first conversation we had when I got the job was, "Hey, buddy," he calls me up, he goes, "Hey, buddy," he goes, "just want you to know that you're wide open." I said, "Well, what do you mean wide open?" "Yeah, you may want to patch port number, blah, blah, blah." I'm not going to say what it was, but I'm like, I'm like, "Hey, thanks, pal. Thanks." Like, all right. So we quickly fixed that. So, so he continues to help me out. Ransomware was really big. Excuse me. Ransomware was really big and it still is. Now there's a lot of software that's implemented in detection of ransomware. There's a lot of backups, like Commvault has a ransomware protection on their backup system, so that the way ransomware works, it replicates from one device to another. So Commvault on their backups, if you encrypt your backups in Commvault, there's something that will prevent it from writing from one backup to another. So if in essence you are a victim of ransomware, you want to make sure that your backups are encrypted, and you want to make sure that you have some type of ransomware protection on them. The key to a lot of this for us is we look at phishing. So phishing tests, we use KnowBe4, and I really, really like KnowBe4. We use KnowBe4 for our awareness trainings and our phishing tests. We send out each month a test to our user base, which is approximately 1,000 people, and it reports back to us what they do. Meaning, did they fail? Have they clicked? Have they reported it? Have they opened the attachment? So what's interesting about this, if if you look at this and you see the bars going across, the first bar is January. All right. This is where I would be pointing on the screen, but I can't. So the first bar all the way on your left is January. Then it goes to February, March, April, and May. All right. If you look at April, and that's what stood out to me, because I assess this every month after the tests go out, and I do it for my own edification to see if we're getting better or if we're getting worse. I looked at that, and we were getting a lot better. And I looked at that, and I went, "Oh my God, what happened?" And then it hit me. It was COVID. COVID created such a panic, not just with going outside and afraid to catch it, but it created panic. People were just clicking anything haphazardly. They get an email, they click it, boom. Everybody was in a rush. And that's the only thing that I could attribute it to, because those 2 months when everybody was working remotely, we had to really do some training after that. And if you look, the May, both of those red marks are replies. That means the replies means that people get an email saying you just won the lottery, and people would reply back and say, "What did I win?" And I got that too, believe it or not. I got that because I could see what people reply. This is an automated computer that's sending these out. So we have folks that actually reply back to it. Some of them are really good. I'm not gonna lie. Some of them are really good, but some of them are just bogus. It's like from the HR director, who is not the HR director of our county. It says HR director John Matarazz, right? So John Matarazz sends this email out. And he says, "Hey, you need to check this link out because it's got information about your Social Security." People clicked it. They opened it. And they're like, "Thanks, John Matarazz. I believe you. Have a good day." There's no John Matarazz. That's on our director. So again, it's everybody, in my opinion, was click happy. So what do we do here? How do we fix this? I think by looking at it from my perspective, you're very much at risk from your user base to bring you down. And the incidents that occurred prior in the county here were user base related.
Can I jump in?
Yeah, sure.
We want to do a polling question, so we'll do about a 60-second break or so. Does the staff understand the risk they take by opening emails? Good question. Give a couple seconds for people to wake up, click yes or no. Our staff really didn't understand the risk, and Stan says he's been saying last I've been beating it into him, and then you get the other way where they're afraid to open an email at all. So, all right, that's enough time for the poll. Back to Stan. Thanks, Stan.
Great point. So I welcome it. I love it when people email me and they say, "Is this safe to open?" I don't mind that. That tells me that they're thinking, right? So as a supervisor, as a boss, as a leader, the last thing I'm going to do is say, "Stop doing that. I don't want that. This bothers me." It doesn't bother me. I love it. if I send out awareness emails, and I send it out and I send them out periodically of threats and concerns that are out there to all of our employees. And if they delete it, that's fine. But if they read it, and if even 20% reads it, that 20% that gets that is understanding it. So I get on an average each month, maybe 10 to 15 people that email me and say, what do I do with this? And I like that. And here's the reason why. Last week, we had an outside agency that was compromised, that was emailing our folks here in the county. I got tipped off to it at from the night before from one of our users, one of our end users, and she said, "Is this real?" And I went, "No, it's not. It's fake." And I looked at it, and it wasn't a no before. It was a legitimate phishing test that had somebody clicked on that link, it would have taken, God knows what it would have done. I'll just say that. So I was able to do a couple of rules, send out an all email to all county and say, hey, if you get something from this email address, don't open it. All right, don't open it. And you can report it to me, fine. That if by people reporting it to me, it tells me that they are aware. That's all I'm concerned with, is awareness. I just want to make sure that people know what they're doing, and that means that our learning curve is getting a lot better. So looking at this slide here, I covered a lot of it already. We have had cases where they'll target high county departments and officials. So they'll act like they're our county administrator. We've had that a couple of times. They'll act like they're Jerry. They'll act like they're me. And they'll say, hey, I need you to get me this, I need you to go out and buy me something, gift card or something like that. Some of them aren't malicious to take down your network. Some of them are just to defraud and get money from you. And that does happen a lot too. Spam, you could really knock down spam by, spam filters. Microsoft has some. We use Barracuda spam filter. It's still going to get through. It's still going to get through. They'll find a way. They'll spoof their email address. They'll create another account. It's still going to get through. So again, I say that the best type of security is the end user security, is through training. And if you look at this slide here, it's got a lot going on. But if you look at the bottom, if you see the type of insider threats, we have the oblivious insider, who is, I'll give you this one. So we just recently put out a password change to all county, right? We recently went to another level of Azure, and we're able to now reset our own passwords, and anybody can change their own passwords when they want. We have a 90-day policy for it, and we'll get into policies in a second. But got a question. Was, Stan, when I change my password to a new password, is that the password I have to use from now on? That falls under the green oblivious insider, okay? So if you change your password, yes, that's your new password. That's what you have to use. Then you have the malicious insider, who is obviously malicious, somebody who is disgruntled. They want to just destroy the data. They get fired. They want to destroy it. All right. You see, I'm sure people have seen instances like that. I've in the past have investigated things like that. The negligent insider. These are the ones that are I want to say, it says uneducated, but I want to say lack of training, in my opinion. I think the training is an issue. I don't want to say uneducated. I think it's just not trained well enough to understand. I'll give you an example of that. We had an employee that she periodically failed the phishing tests each month. And again, I pull the records and I look and I see what it is, because I want to assess myself if I'm doing a good job. If I just sit back and do nothing, then how are we going to get better? She failed over a period of 4 months. So I talked to their boss and said, look, we need to sit down and talk to her. You need to tell her this, this, and this. And he said, well, why don't you talk to her? I said, well, I'm not her boss. I said, I think it's just something that she doesn't understand. I said, she's replying to things back and forth that are completely nonsensical, that she is going to be the link. If we are going to go down, she is going to click on it, and that's going to be the end. I said, so you need to talk to her. They talked to her, and she said, oh, I had no idea. So we do a training every year, and we do a refresher training. October is National Cybersecurity Awareness Month. So we're going to kick that off with a new training to all of our county employees that they have to take a look at, including a telecommuting training while you are outside of the environment of your office, working at home, and cybersecurity. So let's talk about safeguarding it. All right, how do we protect it? What do we do? Jerry mentioned a bunch of stuff already. You know, we purchased firewalls. We purchased, you know, a bunch of we use Palo Altos. We have backups. They're encrypted. We have them off-site. You want to make sure, you know, these are checklists that as a CISO, you'd like to make sure that you're doing the right thing. Is your backbone internet secure? Meaning, where is your pipeline coming from? Is that the first place of your security? What's the training level? And again, that's the biggest thing. And when I say what gaps do you have, assessing it, we only had a minimal amount, and I still kept my notes from my first meeting here with Jason, who's deputy director, who helps me out continually every day, wealth of knowledge. That was our biggest gap, I think, was our training and our wellness. So that's very interesting, and I'll get into that in a couple of slides. But
and I apologize for the interruption. It's just want to give you a 10-minute warning.
Okay.
A lot more slides, but I just want to jump in. Sorry.
That's right. I'm almost done. So we got remote access. So remote access, we look at cloud-based solutions. And I think in this environment, something like Zoom, Teams, Edmunds, Office 365, I think those are key things that you know you really need to take a look at. And we migrated into these, and it really has been working out very, very well. So now, what happens if you have a incident, right? How do you respond? What do you do? You get a call in the middle of the night, and everything is going sideways, right? It's all as my former compadre used to tell me, cattywampus. Well, I put this up every once in a while. I mean, in the case of a cyber attack, break glass and pull cables. Yeah, you could do that. That's probably the easiest way. But I think one of the things that we've implemented here is policies. We have a bunch of policies that we've implemented since last October. One of them is our acceptable use policy, right? And in the acceptable use policy, it's important because you want to make sure that your policies are documented. Are they reasonable? All right, do the employees follow the policies? How do you ensure that? We ensure that through KnowBe4. They have to sign off that they read the policies. Where are we getting these policies from? And the user, at the bottom, agree that the user is the most important security measure. So the users have to know this, right? And I took this right out of one of our trainings from our policy training is the policies. The thing that stands out here is consistency. It must be consistent with whatever other policies you have in place, right? It also reduces liability. Let them know your privacy expectations basically on a county computer are very limited. You basically have none. It protects your confidential data as well. So I usually show this to everyone and say, this is what the locked door is. So if you look at your room wherever you are now, if you shut the door, what is your biggest security threat that's in the room where you are right now? Well, it's you. It's me. I'm the biggest security threat. I right now can click a button and pretty much shut down everything, right? This has a lot going on, but if you look at the bottom left and the bottom right, it shows you that training is really an obstacle. So we've really took that into play here. So I want to get through this because I want to talk about a case study, and this really plays along with cybersecurity and protecting your environment. And basically, it's the Melissa virus. Now, what I want to show you is a quick video here. I'm going to blow through the video, let you watch the beginning, and then I took a note of where I wanted you to go to show you the magnitude of what this was. And if you do remember it, outstanding. But if you don't, this is what it was. put it down here. Just bear with me, and then I'm going to skip through to the end to show you the 6-minute mark.
The other story tonight, we're talking about police say the man who masterminded the Melissa computer virus is from New Jersey. He is now under arrest tonight, and police say his handiwork wiped out computer systems around the world. And now he is facing some serious charges. The suspect is from Aberdeen in Monmouth County, New Jersey. He was arrested at his brother's home last night. News 10's Cindy Hamill is live in Trenton with the latest on this still developing story. Cindy.
Well, Tim, it didn't take long for federal and state officials to trace the widespread computer problem to right here in New Jersey, a small central town in New Jersey. 30-year-old David L. Smith is free on bail tonight, $100,000 bail. He faces several charges, including interfering with public communication. It was from this small apartment in Aberdeen, New Jersey, that police say came a computer headache felt around the world. Police believe this is where 30-year-old David L. Smith created the computer virus Melissa.
It's a supposition on our part that the motive was simply a zeal to see if he could achieve what he has in fact achieved.
Melissa uses Microsoft's Outlook email program to send infected messages to the first 50 addresses in the user's log. Authorities say America
that was used to gain access to America Online. By that backtracking technique, we're actually able to pinpoint the place where we believe it originated.
It led to David Smith's apartment at the Ken Gardens complex in Aberdeen, where authorities executed a search warrant yesterday afternoon. Officials say Smith has been charged with interruption of public communication, conspiracy, and other crimes.
Obviously, no one can get in the mind of this individual. It's a supposition on our part that the motive was simply a zeal to see if he could achieve what he has in fact achieved.
Which was apparently to disrupt email.
So Stan, let's
So now, if you look
wrap
at
up the last portion of this, so we can go to question and answers. If there's anything else you want to add.
So now, if you look at that last play there was actually the reason why I showed it was the chaos of all the people that were there. How much time do we have left?
We're ready for questions and answers.
Oh, okay.
5 minutes. You want to wrap up with one more thing you want to say?
Yeah. The Melissa virus was probably one of the biggest cases in the world, and it kicked off with a lot of security concerns that we had. It was my case. I worked it. The FBI was there, but it was the state police that arrested him. I did the interview, and doing that case, actually, I learned a lot of information. And from his interview and from talk to him and backtracking it. And part of it was done at his office at AT&T. So that was my point, is that when this, took down and took down the entire world, it was done at work. So that was very, 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 very unique case. So yeah, go ahead, open up the questions.
Thank you very much, Stan. Anyone who would like to pose questions, I'll manage them through the Q&A. We have our first already. If you use a personal computer at home to work remotely, can viruses be transferred back and forth between them? How about Zoom meetings? Great question. What do you think, Sam?
So if you use a computer at home, can viruses be transmitted from the computer that you're working at home back to, is it to work? Is that, am I looking at it right?
Yeah, well, they're saying that if you use your computer at home and you work remotely, can it transfer to the computer, I guess, at the job? What about Zoom meetings? Doesn't it open up for viruses?
Okay. It can obviously transmit to the computer that you're on. If you're working remotely, the only way that it would transmit to your work computer is if you were, in fact, connected through a VPN to the work computer. So yes, it could if you were VPN connected, and that's why you would definitely need some type of antivirus software or something to detect that before it happened, or a good firewall. So yes, it can, but if you're working on like an Edmunds or something like that, and you're working in the cloud and you're not connected to your work, but you're connected to your home, it would more than likely only affect your home computer. However, if you get a virus on your computer, some of them lie dormant for a period of time, you bring it back to work, you plug it in, and they wait. Some of them have a time period that they're set to kick off. So it's important to know that as well.
Jerry, you want to piggyback on that and answer part of that question?
I think Stan did fine.
Okay. We have another question here. Is the organization compromised if a phishing email contains an HTML attachment and the attachment is clicked on by the user?
It depends. It could be, because the way that it depends on the type of virus, it depends on what it is. If you click on it, if it's a self-replicating, then it could replicate from one computer to the next. And the way that they usually work is it will work within that network that it's connected to first and then jump to another one. So that's why it's important to have something on there that you're able to, once you determine that a machine is acting strange, the first thing to do is take that machine right off your network, to have something like an Azure, like Active Directory, something in place where you could take the machine off. So it could, and that's the way ransomware does work. It replicates from one machine to the next, to the next, to the next. And that's what makes them so damaging. And that's how it shuts down everything.
And you said over and over again, the most important thing is to understand what it is you're clicking on. If you don't know what that what the email attachment is, don't do it.
Don't be too quick to click. That's what we say to our user base. Don't be too quick to click.
Okay, we have two more questions. Is VMware safer than VPN?
VMware safer than VPN?
Correct.
Well, it's kind of two separate things. So VMware is a virtual machine that you're connecting to. VPN is a kind of a tunnel that you're using as to connect into that. So there's, without getting too technical, there's many different ways you can connect to a VMware machine. One of them is through a VPN, or one of them is through a remote desktop. It's always to say, when you're connecting to anything, whether it be VPN, a VMware, you should use multi-factor authentication. And that will ensure that it's you that's on it. In other words, you'll get a text saying, is this you that's logging in? So they're two separate things. For the most part, a VMware is behind a firewall, so you probably are connecting to it through some type of a remote connection, whether it be VPN. You just want to make sure that how you're connecting to it is secure. That's the key.
Okay, we have one more, I think, or perhaps two. One, if you have your email on your phone and open an email with an issue, can your phone have issues?
It can. The phone can get bricked, essentially. So what I do personally, and I think, Cindy, I've actually told you to do this before, because you had a question on something, because every once in a while you get an email, you're like, is this legitimate? I don't know. The hardest way to find out is actually what? Is you have to open it up somehow, maybe. So what I usually do is I will go, if it's an email in question, I'll use my phone, because my phone's not connected to any. If I brick my phone, these phones now are like $1 a piece, I think we get them for. Okay. So if I brick my phone, I'll just use a new SIM card.
We have a 45-second point. One more question. I was emailed bombed and am still getting tons of emails. How would you address this type of issue? So they're getting email bombs.
So it depends on what type of email bombing. It could be spam. When you put your information out and you sign up for things on the web, some parties send that information out to others. It may also be somebody compromised a contact address book from somebody else, not necessarily that person, and they got your email address that way too. So that's very difficult to take off. But there is a website that you could go to. It's Have I Been Pawned, PWNED, I believe it is. And you could put your email address in there, and you could see if your email address was compromised at one point. Okay. It's actually a pretty good site. Jerry actually showed that to me a while ago.
And then the answer would be to address it would be to change your email address.
Yeah.
And your password too.
Do random order things, and I have a dummy email address. It's like, okay, if I'm going to order something, I'll do it here, so that when they sell my email and it gets distributed around, all the junk falls there, and just ignore it.
Yeah.
Well, I think we're at our end. I do have one more comment. Excellent presentation. Just came through the question and answer.
Oh, thank you.
Good job.
I appreciate the GFOA having me here. Thanks for affording me the opportunity to do this. This is really awesome.
We have someone saying, please repeat the I Am Pond website real quick.
It is, let me see if I can get it for you, and I'll give you the exact address. I believe it's PWNED. Let me see, I'll just go in here real quick. It's have, HAVEI, BEEN, PWNED.com.
Okay. I'd like to thank Stan for an awesome presentation. And the biggest thing to take from his presentation, he said over and over and over again, your weakest link is your employee. It's the nut behind the wheel that gives you the problem. And we spent a lot of time educating, training. You can spend millions of dollars in technology to get all these things to block and this and that, and then you have someone sit there and go click, and you're done. So that's good stuff. All right. Thanks again, Stan. And it's about 9:23. Next presentation sharp at 9:30. I will see everybody in about 5 minutes.
Thanks, Jerry.
Thank you. All right. Bye.